Welcome to New Vegas Mod Clinic Part 9. Now in this episode we're going to be covering mods that change the look and feel of the Wasteland. And the first mod we're going to talk about is Project Reality. Now Project Reality is a weather mod, but it's a little bit more as well. Like Nevada Skies, it gives you weather, it changes the lighting, but Project Reality also adds a few unique little twists to the whole package. Now, the obvious question is, how does it differ to a mod like Nevada Skies? And usually the next question is, which is better? Now, I'm going to cover the second question later, but the way that it differs from Nevada Skies is basically how it feels. Nevada Skies makes the game feel, well, it makes it feel like you're in a scorching desert. It always makes me feel, when it's a sunny day, that it's very, very hot. Project Reality feels more like a nuclear wasteland to me. It always feels slightly more like autumn, or I guess that would be fall for my American viewers. And you get a slightly chillier feeling. Now there are sunny days, and those sunny days are spectacular. I mean, the sun is really, really well done. But there just seems to be more days where it's slightly overcast or slightly cloudy. And there's a difference with the light as well. The light isn't quite as saturated, so it gives the game a slightly more somber feeling. And yet there are these incredible moments where the light is just quite spectacular. You'll get a sunset that is just amazing, and you find yourself taking a lot of screenshots. It really is very, very impressive. Now the night times are darker, as you would expect from a weather mod, and they're very, very well done. You get a very, very realistic feeling, and there's a very slight distortion at the edge of your vision, on your peripheral vision, and it gives it a very surreal feeling. It's hard to explain. You may not even notice it at first, but it is there. And there are a few other little features like that. So for example, there's a soft, subtle depth of field, which I'll explain later on if you don't know what that is. There's also options for heat shimmer, and a few other really quirky options which I will cover. Now the first of those options I'm going to cover is the Dark Wasteland option. Now the nights are pretty dark, but you can actually tweak them in the MCM menu. But you'll notice when you go to Dark Wasteland, there is current setting darker, but it's great. It's not highlighted. You can't select it. You need to switch on the Dark Wasteland first. The thing is this also adds church bells at midnight and the sound of ghost voices, which is very creepy. So you have to decide if you want that as well. One of the other little quirks is when you get a rad storm, that's like rain that's going to give you radiation damage, you get these sirens, as you can hear, warning you. And you've got about 3 or 4 minutes to make it into cover. And once those sirens start, you can't fast travel either. So you got to run to cover. You can't actually just get out of there. If you're in the middle of a mountain somewhere miles away, oof, start sprinting. Now I mentioned depth of field earlier, and as you can see here, there's that subtle blur in the distance that makes those mountains, the cliff face, look a little less sharp, which makes it more picturesque. Now, for those of you using Imaginator, you've already seen this in the depth of field options you get there. I'm using Director's Chair mod to change it, and as you can see, we've got Horizon Clean. And if I set depth of field Horizon Clean, this is the maximum. You see that's very blurred. Everything in the distance is very blurred. It gives it a far more cinematic feel. The subtle depth of field for Project Reality seems to be similar to the Horizon Clean Low or Medium, as you can see, very, very similar. But I think the Horizon Clean on Imaginator has less of an impact on performance. I don't know for sure, I haven't tested it, but it seems to, slightly. But as you can see, if you are using the Imaginator, you can use that instead. As you can see here, I'm just switching between them, and you get a little bit more control. So I actually don't use Project Reality's depth of field. But that doesn't matter because you can turn it off in the MCM menu, and so it's perfectly compatible with Imaginator or Dynavision. So if I set the dynamic depth of field to come on in game mode, I usually only have it on screenshot mode, but if I set it for game mode as well, you can see now when I go back to the game, I now have the dynamic depth of field with Project Reality, absolutely no problem whatsoever. If you don't know what dynamic depth of field is, it's where if I look at a close object, I get the distance objects blurred, but when I look back at the distance, they become clear again, as you can see. The only really important thing is don't use Project Reality's subtle depth of field and the Imaginator or Dynavision's. Just use one of them. So, which mod do I prefer? Nevada Skies or Project Reality? Well, I kind of like them both equally. It really depends on my mood, and I mean I literally can go 10 minutes loving one more and then suddenly think, oh no, I really need the other mod right now for this screenshot, for this mood. What I really want is someone to make a mod that allows me to press a button and it switches between the two mods. One thing that might affect your decision is performance. The Project Reality mod definitely hits your system harder. It definitely drops your frame rate a lot more than Nevada Skies. However, there is one exception to that, and that is rain. For some reason, Project Reality's rain is pretty good. It doesn't hit my system very much at all, whereas Nevada Skies does. So that should be something you think about. In the end, though, it's purely a matter of personal taste. I would highly recommend trying both mods and deciding yourself. Now, installing Project Reality is fairly easy, but does involve a few prerequisites. Specifically, you cannot use it with any other weather mods. So if you're using Fallout or Nevada Skies, as I am, you cannot have those installed. So the first thing to do is to deactivate Nevada Skies. Now, once I've done that, I download the Project Reality file. It's currently at version 5 that now has HDR. And it's a pretty big file, so it'll take a minute or so to download. Once it's downloaded, go to your package manager and create a foam mod. And then activate it. Now, it should only take a few seconds. It's a pretty big mod, but not too long to install. It's replacing the grass from Vert's Wasteland. I think I will say no to that. And then it's installed. For load order, I'm going to treat it as if it was Nevada Skies and put it fairly high again, with only Dynavision and the Imaginator afterwards. Oh, obviously a director's chair because that needs the two. Now, the next mod does one thing and one thing only. It replaces the dust storm or sandstorm textures with a more realistic and higher resolution one. Now, as you can see, it's a far nicer looking texture. It's actually Hectrol's FX Dust Storm texture, and it is a massive improvement over the vanilla game. Now, it comes in a variety of sizes, from quite low resolution all the way up to ultra high resolution. So, first thing we do is download the main file, Hectrol FX Dust Storm Deluxe High-Res Retex. So, download that. Once it's downloaded, I recommend extracting the file in its entirety. And the reason for this is there are several different versions and they all come in one file. So if I open that, you can now see there are the 256, 512, etc. These are all the different resolutions. So I have to pick one of them. Obviously the 4096 is the highest resolution. You should only use that if your system can handle it. So open up your package manager and go to Create From Folder. Now open up the Hectrol FX dust storm that you extracted and find the one you want. Now I'm going to use the 4096. In fact, no, I'll tell you what, I'm going to use something more in the middle. I'm going to use the 2048. I have no idea what your machine can take, so you'll have to make that decision. And I make the foam mod from that. I'm going to give it a new name. Hectrol Dust Storm Retex. And save. Then just activate. It's going to replace Project Reality in this particular case, but I think that's okay. The Project Reality mod author actually recommended this mod, so I'm assuming it was okay to overwrite it. And that's it. Now the last mod we're going to look at is a mod called Mojave Knights, and it's basically a night sky replacer, and it replaces the stars with a very, very nice high resolution star map. I believe this is actual star map photograph, a real one. It also replaces the moon. As you can see, the moon is a little bit more realistic. It is a far more realistic size. It reduces the size of the moon just a little bit. I think about 80%. The vanilla game, the moon is a little too large. But as you can see, it sort of just really does make the sky a lot more interesting. There you go, the moon. Okay, so we go to the Mojave Knights page, and there is a FOMOD file that contains all the options and the main file, so we're going to download that one. Makes things a lot easier for us. Once it's done, open the package manager, add FOMOD from the archive we just downloaded, and there we have Mojave Knights. Activate, and we get options. Now we can change the moon size. And oh, I see, this is what I like. I like it when mod authors do this. You can make the moon enormous or slightly smaller. I think the 80% the default is more realistic, so we're going to stick with that. And we want enhanced sky. We can uncheck that if we want. We also have regular moon, low glow moon, or high glow moon. So we're gonna stick with the regular and install that. I do like mods that come with scripted installs that make it so much easier and so much more pleasant. Now I'm going to check the load order. Now the author doesn't give any sort of indication where he wants it, so I'm going to put it after that overhaul and before Project Reality, or Nevada Skies as well, if you're still using that mod. And that's it for this video. Now this video is a lot of fun for me to make because it involved taking a lot of great footage, and it's always a pleasure to take really nice video footage or really good screenshots with these great visual mods in play. So I've really enjoyed this. I hope you guys have enjoyed it too, and I hope you found it informative. I look forward to seeing you next time.